Good afternoon, team. My name is Ramesh. So we'll be discussing a few topics. Okay, like what are projects, programs, portfolios, what is project management, certain terminologies, phases. Okay, so basically, what is a project? Okay, see, a lot of us work in projects. So what is the distinguishing feature of a project? We don't work there for a long time, isn't it? We move on to other projects. So what it means is all projects have a start date and end date. Fine. It's not the case with operations. If you work in a bank, for example, they accept cash, dispense cash, sanction loans, recover loans. These are all things that happen in a day-to-day manner. So you'll have these processes happening as long as you have banks running, isn't it? But projects are not like that. Oh, that's why we keep moving around. Okay. So um, basically, projects consist of sequence of tasks having a definite begin and end. This is important. As project starts when a project charter is signed off. Okay, there are a lot of things that happen before a project really comes into existence. For instance, you have the top management performing strategic analysis. Okay, so to decide if there is a need for a new project, that is there an opportunity that you want to exploit, or is there a problem that you want to solve? Okay, so it could be problem, it could be opportunity. First of all, you make an environmental scanning. Okay, so you decide whether you need a project at all. Then, if at all you feel there is a need for a project, you perform what is called as needs analysis. There is some sort of a preliminary um, process before you could even think of having a business case. Then, if the organization feels that there is a need for a project, there could be a need for a project. We are not sure yet, we put up a business case, right? So business case is basically a decision support tool. An organization has limited funds, but the project request could be unlimited. So you put up a business case, and once the project's okayed and the business case is okayed, you'll have a project running off, isn't it? Running and off, right? So you have a business case being put up. So once a business case is okayed, a project charter would be launched. It would be signed off by a sponsor, and bingo, there goes a project. Okay, so you have a project manager. That's why we guys, come into existence. So the moment a project is signed off, your name would be mentioned, the project charter, and from that point onwards, you become the project manager. So what do? We go. You use project charter as a basic document. Project charter gives you high-level information like high-level requirements, high-level summary milestones, then pre-approved financial resources. It gives you a high description of the product, things like that. Okay, so based on that, we start planning for a project, isn't it? So we come with schedule, we come with scope, we come with cost, things like that. All that we'll discuss in course of time. Okay, so a project has got a start date and end date. Okay, then it has got defined outcomes and deliverables. Especially if it's a waterfall project, we decide what we're going to deliver at the very beginning of the project. That is, we gather requirements. Okay, we come with scope statement, right? Then we come with a detailed schedule. Once you have a schedule, we load schedule with resource requirements, and we come with a budget. Okay, so you have a lot of interim deliverables, and you also have final deliverables, isn't it? So what is a deliverable? Deliverable is a work product. It happens at the end of a process. Okay, it could be some sort of an interim deliverables like a requirement documentation, design documentation, plans. These are all deliverables. These could also be completed application functionalities, prototypes, whatever they are. Fine. So deliverables are those that arise because of any activities happening, project activities happening. Okay. You call them fixed defined outcomes because you have fixed deadline. You know when you have to deliver, what you have to deliver, at what cost you have to deliver. So everything is decided in advance. Okay. So it has got a fixed deadline, right? Then budget is predefined. I mean, all these happen at the same time. Okay, that is, as you gather requirements, you define scope. As you define scope, you come with schedule. As you come with schedule, you come with cost. And all the subsidiary areas of project management, we do simultaneously. It is not one after the other. All this happen simultaneously. Okay, so this is what a project is defined as. Definitely, there is a project is a got a it has got it adopts a planned and organized approach. So what do you mean by planned and organized approach? There are some 9 plans, subsidy plans, okay, and 2 other allied plans. Okay, so totally there are some 11 plans. It depends on the discretion. You can have even more plans if you want. Okay, if your organizational requirement asks for that, right? So here, everything that we do is planned. The cost is planned, scope is planned, schedule is planned, quality is planned, even risk is planned. Okay, procurement is planned. So everything. So we are extremely well organized. So what does it mean? It means you have a better chance of succeeding. You have a better chance of delivering on time. Okay, delivering within budget, right? Delivering 100% of what we plan to deliver. And the moment you plan, you would also be comparing your actual results with the plan. So you will know where are the variances. So based on these variances, you can take timely actions for correcting, making quick course corrections. You will be able to know what could be the possible financial budgets when you complete the project, or what could be the revised targets, schedule targets, cost targets. Okay, so planning is the hallmark of project management. Okay, so we have a very organized approach, right? And then proper time management. So schedule tells you what are the start date and end dates of all activities. So we make sure we start and end the activities on time. Result monitoring. See what happens. What do you mean by results monitoring? Is we constantly keep track of the actual results. Let's say it is 3 months now. We have been running the project for 3 months. Let's say this is June. By June, we must have created, let's say, 100 deliverables. Okay. At the end of June, we would be measuring the actual progress. Well, if we had delivered only 80, which means there is a negative scope deviation of 20, isn't it? Well, by end of 30th June, we should have spent $1 million. There is a plan. So when you compare this with the actuals, we find that, oh, we spent $1.10 million. So you have a cost variance. Likewise, we should have taken, say, 3 months to deliver a set of work packages. Well, we took actually 4 months. So this tells you we got a negative schedule target, schedule variance. Okay. Now, when you compare the actual with the plan, okay, you can understand the causes for the variance. Why did you spend more? Well, you must have spent more because you did not plan well. There could be a planning error. Okay, right? Maybe you did not have a realistic plan. You wanted to have a very conservative plan. So you erred on the right side. You thought that, well, let us forecast on the right side, right? But then when you actually put the plan to action, well, you might have found that, well, some of these plans were extremely ambitious. Okay, so you would like to modify your plan, make changes to the plan, make it more realistic so that it is achievable, isn't it? Basically, it helps you come with forecasts. Let's say you plan to complete the project by June, spending $1 million. Now looks like there could be a variance which may take you beyond your cost target and beyond a scheduled target. So it helps you find out why. Okay, and it helps you come with revised forecast. Okay, that way you can monitor your results properly, right? Then comes team commitment. So what is team commitment? As project managers, we take all steps to acquire team, manage team, develop team. Okay, exercise vision. Okay, then provide leadership. Okay, influence. Most of the time, we don't really have a real power in the projects because we work in an atmosphere where we report to functional managers. Okay, we don't really have any authority. Rather, we derive authority from the functional manager. So we know over a period of time how to influence people, how to effect informal exercise of power and get things done. Okay, so we can ensure that team commitment remains. Then resource optimization. So since you're going to spend in a very planned way, you will make sure that you're able to keep track of the expenditure. material expenditure, okay, financial expenditure, everything, and you track them very, very closely. The utilization of resources become very optimal, right? Then maximum customer satisfaction. Over a period of time, you acquire some sort of a customer centricity. Yeah. Then comes project lifecycle. So in traditional waterfall projects, we have, we get all the requirements documentation done at the very beginning. And from that, we derive a scope statement. Scope statement tells you all the project management activities and the deliverables that you have to create. Okay. Then from this, we derive a detailed design. Then we do the coding, testing, installation, turnover. Okay. So all these are planned at a very, very initial stage in the project. Fine. So project cycle is not a cyclical process, but is a sequential process comprised of various phases which are unique to your project. Fine. So we don't really go back this way, isn't it? Unless there's some important clarification that we need to have from the stakeholders, we don't really go back. Okay, it always flows this way, right? So this is called as a project life cycle. Now, different industries have different life cycle phases. Pharmaceutical has a particular life cycle phase. Then construction industry has a different life cycle phase. Life cycle stages, right? So it all differs from industry to industry. The reason why we need to build these life cycle is at the end of each phase, we may have to create an interim deliverable and get them reviewed with the stakeholders. Okay, so we should get a signal, we should get a sign off so that we can move on to the next phase, isn't it? So it is always better to break the project into life cycle phases so that we can make quick course corrections. We can create deliverables. For example, let's say you come with requirement documentation, right? So once you first you would internally reviewing it, you'll have a peer review. Then after that, you'll be putting it before stakeholders for sign off, isn't it? So they may ask you to review. They might say you may ask to review, or they may say, well, let's go ahead. Or they may ask you to wait for something else that may have to happen at a program level. So a lot of things could happen. So it becomes possible for you to get frequent feedbacks. The feedbacks may be signaling that you're heading in the right direction or not. Okay, so if necessary, you can make quick course corrections. Fine. So that is the reason why you break down a project into different life cycle phases, right? So after coding, for example, after high-level design, you go for detailed design. Okay, then the design leads to coding, then it's tested, installed, turnover. Fine. These are all examples. Yeah. Then we look into what are projects, programs, and portfolios. So basically, what is a project? Project, as I told you, is a temporary endeavor. It has a start date and it has got an end date. Fine. It starts when a charter is signed. Charter is a document that formally brings a project into existence. It could be something like a date of birth certificate for an individual, okay, or a certificate of incorporation for an entity. Fine. So a charter launches a project formally. It is signed by the sponsor, okay, and it has the project manager's name mentioned therein. So that's very important for the project manager because that gives him the authority, and that also defines his authority, limits his authority. Okay, so basically a project is a temporary endeavor. It is undertaken to produce a unique product or solution. Okay, so what is unique? Unique doesn't always mean discovering a new, what do you call, medical formula or a new continent or a planet. Okay, what you mean by unique is something that is not already there in the organization. Okay, for instance, see, you might be a department store. You might be selling Coke day in and day out. So whenever somebody asks you for a can of Coke, somebody gives you money and you dish out a can of Coke. Okay, so that is how the sales operation has been running in this company so far, in this chain so far. But now this organization wants to install a vending machine. Okay, now this vending machine is not totally unknown. There are a lot of companies which have been using this vending machine all over the world. But as far as the organization is concerned, it is being introduced for the first time. Okay, so you call that unique. Fine. okay, something that is not already there in the organization, that it might be existing elsewhere, right? It could be a product, okay, that is, you'll just be prototyping a product, okay? It could be a prototype for a product, it could be a design, it could be a solution, anything, right? So the solution, when does a project end? Project ends when we have delivered results to operations. For example, let's say these are operations, these are projects. For instance, day in and day out, operations has been sending reports to central bank. This is a bank, let's assume, right? They've been sending reports to central bank. So one fine morning, a new regulatory order is issued saying that you have to send a report in a new template. And the guys in the operation try to generate a report. Well, they cannot generate it because there is no capability. So immediately they send a mail to the admin in the corporate office. So admin has some powers to tweak some setup functions, you know. So he tries to tweak the setup functions. Well, it doesn't work. Then he escalates to its PMO, says, well, there is a new regulatory report. We have to submit it from next month. So we need to do the coding. So a project manager would be appointed. He would be taking requirements from operations, and he'll come with deliveries, and he'll deliver a new capability to the operations. He will take people from operations for what? For giving requirements, for testing requirements. I'm sorry, for testing the applications, whatever it is. Okay, so once the project results are delivered back to operations, they are no longer projects, they are operations. Fine. So that is what a project is. Okay. What is a program? See, at times it makes sense to organize multiple projects into one program. Okay, I can just give you an example. Let us say there are 3 projects. So one project is to prototype a satellite. Okay. So the other project is to launch the satellite. The third project is to send and receive signals. Now, these 3 projects, they apply common technology, isn't it? The resources could be common for both all the 3 projects. Technology could be common. Even people could be common, isn't it? People who work in the project, they could be common, right? And you have common dependencies. Okay, unless you launch, you can't send and receive signals, you know. So you have common dependencies in terms of deliverable dates, in terms of resource requirements. Okay, then they may have common risks, and they may have common continuities. Most importantly, there is common value when combining them. Okay, so you may also even have a common budget. You will have common expenditure reviews. Fine. So it becomes very sensible to combine a few projects which are connected, okay, this way into a program. Okay, so let's assume that of the 3 projects, the prototyping project was a success. It was tested and it was found to be good. Then a satellite was manufactured and it was launched. Well, the launch was also a success. But when you send signals, well, it did not reach the other end. So what does it mean? It means the third project is a failure, isn't it? Now, though 2 projects within this program could have passed, could have been a successful one, the third one was a failure. So as an overall program, it is a failure. Okay, so program management ensures that all the projects succeed by managing the risks, dependencies, resource constraints, deliverable dates, constraints like budget, schedule, okay, in a very connected manner in order to obtain certain benefits which you will not obtain if you manage them as individual projects. Okay, so that is what is called as program. Fine. Now, portfolio. What is portfolio? See, who normally manages portfolio functions? It is PMO, isn't it? Right? Normally it is PMO. Okay. So what is a portfolio function? See, who is the most important stakeholder in the organization? Customer, project manager, employees, SME, all of these people are very, very important. Okay. See, it's like feeling different parts of an elephant and trying to define an elephant. We've seen a lot of people, we saw a story of a blind man, a set of blind people trying to describe an elephant, So each one explores the elephant and states that from its own point of view, isn't it? So that's what we are all doing. Okay. Right. Anyway, see, yeah, all of you are right. All of these people are very, very important stakeholders, team members, then customers, SMEs. Okay, everyone is equally important. Okay, but there is one set of people without whom we will not exist. Those are the guys who give us money. Am I right? Did we miss out somebody very important? Okay, so these are the guys without whom we will not exist, isn't it? Right? Of course, without customer we won't exist. But even to help create some sort of a customer base, we require an organization, isn't it? And to form an organization to run it, you require people who can give us money, isn't it? Now, what do they want in return? They want some more money. Okay. Well, you give them some more money. Are they satisfied? They want even more, some more money. You give them even more, some more money. Are they happy? They want some more, even more money. Okay. So there is no limit to satisfying them. This year you declare 10% dividend. Next day they want 11%, then 13%, 14%, and on the 5th year they want your bonus. Okay, right? So there is no end to satisfying them. So what all of us are doing in organizations is to maximize ROI. Now, why are they so important? Because they take enormous risks. See, they're the people who are doing external environmental scanning. See, a lot of changes are taking place outside. Okay, and what is happening inside is not a change. What is happening inside is our ability to respond to these changes. We have to change our decision making. We have to change our bouquet of products. We have to introduce new services, new products. So unless we respond to the changes that are taking place outside, we will not exist, isn't it? So these are the top guys who take big decisions, who take big risks about investing in products, in projects. So therefore, they are legitimately entitled to expect profits, bigger profits, and more bigger profits, isn't it? So all the time, it is about maximizing ROI. Okay, what is ROI? Return on investment. Okay, they want more money for what they give us, right? So that is what portfolio management is all about. Not only that, if an organization has $100, for example, you have splendid opportunities in the external market. You may have opportunities in different segments. For example, you may have insurance, then banking, petrochemicals, media. So each of these segments will have a different outlook in terms of, some industries seem to have a very bright prospects, right? So somebody some industries may not have that much prospects. Okay, a lot of things happening outside. That is what this environmental scanning is. So it is not only about maximizing ROI, it is also about deciding the right type of industry where they should stay invested. Okay, so they cannot put all the money in one basket. So portfolio management is also about diversifying your risks along with your investments. Okay, so you have to diversify your investment in different industries so that any adverse performance in any one particular sector does not affect the fortunes of the company adversely. Let's say, hypothetically, let's assume that we have put all the money in insurance. We have 100 projects running in insurance. We have put all the money in insurance. Then suddenly something happens, and that in the insurance industry's profits start plummeting. But what about all the money that we invested? Who's going to buy the products that come out of these projects, isn't it? So portfolio management is not only about maximizing ROI, it is also about diversifying risk diversifying investments so that it becomes a tool for effective risk management. Fine. Okay. So it is all about achieving strategic goal. Strategic goal is nothing but maximizing ROI and decentralizing risk. Fine. Yeah. So why are these terms important? See, PMP, gives you familiarizes yourself with certain terminologies. So after completing this PMP course, you'll be using a set of terminology with which, people will look at you as somebody who has a lot of maturity, because these have universal applications. No matter where you go, projects are projects, programs are programs, portfolios are portfolios. You can't use them interchangeably. But if you go to some organizations, people can't distinguish between projects and program. Okay, so this gives you some sort of a maturity. Okay, so that is an advantage of become a PMP, right? Now let's come to project management. What did we see earlier? We saw what are projects, programs, operations. Yeah, one thing I forgot to tell you, operations are also part of portfolio. So when you deliver results of projects, whom do we deliver this to? We deliver this to operations. Operations sells these products in the market and it earns revenue. So the revenue that it earns contributes to the strategic objective of maximizing ROI. Fine. Okay. So let's come to what is project management. So is project manager discipline? Of course it is, because you do things in a very planned way, isn't it? Right? You plan for everything and you achieve the results of everything. You know what the difference is. Okay. Then you try to understand the difference. You come with revised forecasts, isn't it? So it gives you a certain amount of discipline. Fine. And provides various principles, techniques, and tools which helps in finishing things on time and within budget. Okay, so we have three constraints, triple constraints. What are these triple constraints? Time is a constraint, scope is a constraint, okay, schedule is a constraint. Within the three, whatever is possible, quality we deliver, isn't it? Because quality comes with, quality means work, quality means cost, quality is time consuming. So within the limits of time, cost, and scope, we deliver, isn't it? So project management tells you how to plan for these triple baselines. Okay, then how to stick to the plans, deliver on time, deliver within budget. Okay, delivering 100% of what we plan to. So that way, project management really helps us. It gives us a discipline. Fine. So it's an application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities in order to meet project requirements. Now the question is, where do you find them? Well, these are mentioned in a standard called Project Management Body of Knowledge. Right now we are in 6th edition. 7th is undergoing, the 6th edition is undergoing revision. Maybe in a few months, okay, you may get the next version also. Okay, so this is Project Management Body of Knowledge. This is where you have all this knowledge, okay, tools, techniques, skills, okay, that required to deliver projects. Fine. Now, why do you need project management? It's a question again and again. Okay, easy planning and scheduling. Okay, I mean, planning is not easy. With planning, project management becomes easy. That is what it means. Okay, so you can plan and schedule. Okay, so what are the different plans we come up with? We come up with plans for timely delivery. That is called schedule. Okay, the first thing is we come with a scope management plan that tells you how to define scope. So along with scope, you have a scope baseline. Fine, you have a scope baseline. Then you come with a budget. Budget tells you how much money you plan to spend. Then you have schedule baseline that tells you at varying points of time how much money you plan to spend. Okay, and this is the S curve. This combines scope, time, cost. Because as you progress into the project, let's say this is January, February, March, April, your planned expenditure also goes up. isn't it? This is how you get a risk curve, right? So this is called performance measurement baseline. A project's performance will be measured against this baseline, a true project performance, So you can plan all the triple baselines, and you can plan performance measurement baseline so that you can measure your actual project progress, fine? So then it becomes possible to schedule. Then you can make sure your task and resource managements are done efficiently because there is plan for everything, isn't it, right? For example, if you have to perform a scheduled activity, okay, you decide what are the tasks that you have to perform, right? Then you sequence them into a network diagram, and you decide who's going to be performing this activity. Then you decide what will be the duration. Okay, what is the most efficient way to arrange them? So all these we do, isn't it? So it lends a lot of efficiency to task management and resource management. What do you mean by resource management? Resource management refers to acquiring resources. It could be people resources, material resources, anything. Okay, then managing them, developing them. Okay, so because of your schedules and costs, they're all laid out beforehand, it becomes possible for you to come with reasonably accurate predictions about resource consumption, place orders, okay, manage scheduled deliveries, and so on. Okay, then synchronized workflow of team. So all the team members work towards a common goal. They have the same set of um, what do you call indicators, like schedule, budget. So they're all governed by the same set of artifacts, isn't it? So it is possible to synchronize the workflow of the team. Fine. All of them are working towards the same goal, isn't it? Right. Then shared documents, calendars, contacts. So we have project repositories, isn't it? Every organization has got a project repository. Um, I'm sure you have one in your organization also, in your project also. So this is where all your plans, documents, okay, they're all stored. So somebody in your team, who would be having the authority to provide you access, isn't it? They may provide you a link. Okay. So where do you get all these mentioned? You get these mentioned in the team charter. Okay. I don't know if all your teams have team charter. It is perfectly, it's always better to have a team charter. Okay. So where you can mention who will be sharing these documents, where will it be held, okay, and things like that. Then accurate project tracking. Like I told you, there is a topic called earned value management. Okay, there will be measuring the earned value against the planned value and actual cost against earned value. So at any point of time, how much money are you spending in order to earn a particular value of work? Okay, so this type of comparison you can do. So you can track your project progress in terms of schedule, in terms of cost, in terms of scope, in terms of risk, everything, fine? Project management terminologies. Well, methodology. What are methodologies? You have agile, isn't it? Then waterfall, right? You can call waterfall as predictive also, because we expect that it is perfectly possible to predict the future state of the market. Okay, and you can compel the stakeholders to give you requirements, isn't it? So that is predictive, right? We know a lot of things when you deliver, taking a long time to deliver, most of what we deliver could really be out of date. Well, that's a big risk. We know how to manage the risk. Okay, we have a topic called risk management that tells us how to manage risk, not to deviate too much from the scope, so that we deliver what we undertake to deliver rather than just keep accepting new scope, So there are better ways of managing risk management. We'll discuss them when we actually go to those topics. Okay, not now, right? So predictive projects. Then agile projects. You have different types of agile methodologies. You can call them Scrum. Okay. Then XP. Then DSDN. Okay. Then what else you have? You have Kanban. So you have several methods. These are all agile methods, isn't it? So it makes you comfortable with these terminologies, right? In fact, you understand to a very good level, to a very good extent about agile. See, if you take PMP exam, as it is now, around 10% of the questions would be from agile and 90 would be from waterfall. But from July 2020, there are some very big changes coming in. Around 50% of questions should be in agile and around 50 in waterfall. Okay, so you can decide. My suggestion is you can take the exams right now without waiting for the new syllabus to come in. Fine. So methodology means it could be agile, it could be predictive. Fine. So what is Scrum? Scrum is something that gives you some sort of a form, ceremonies, isn't it? But it doesn't really solve any problem. No, the solutions come from XP that has got a lot of engineering practices. No, like pair programming, mob programming, common code ownership. Okay, a lot of advanced scientific practices are there, isn't it? So like this, you have different methodologies, right? Then what are requirements? Requirements are what stakeholders expect to find in a product, isn't it? So those are requirements. So that is the heart of the project, fine? That is where we start off, no requirements. Then WBS. What is WBS? See, when we get the requirements for dozens of modules, we need to put them all together, isn't it? So we add up all these requirements into what is called as a scope statement. Okay, it tells you what are all the product features you have to deliver, what project management processes you have to perform, all the deliverables that you have to deliver, right? Then it talks about assumptions that we make, constraints. For example, you have a lot of constraints. You have to deliver within $1 million. You have to deliver within 6 months. Okay, there are some minimal technical performance measurements in terms of quality that you have to maintain. So there are a lot of things, So all these are captured in scope statement. Fine. Now the scope statement is descriptive. That is, it may run to hundreds of pages. Now, if you give a scope statement to a team member and tell them, why don't you start planning for your work? Why don't you start jumping to the action? Okay, so he'll naturally be confused. He will not know when to start, where to start, what are his dependencies. So he will not see the big picture. He wants to know where his role comes in. So what we do is this descriptive statement called scope statement is broken down into smaller and smaller components unless you come to the lowermost level. Each lowermost level represents a work package. Work package means a deliverable, right? So this could be requirement documentation for writers. This could be requirement documentation for Bloomberg, like this, each and every requirement documentation, right? It could be business, technical, interface, anything. So once we give the work package to the team member, he can then plan what are the activities he has to perform, what is the sequence in which he has to arrange these activities, okay? How to come with duration estimates for these activities, right? All that he can do. So basically, we reduce scope statement into work packages. We do it in order to help the team members plan to deliver it. How can they deliver? Only by performing certain activities, isn't it? For example, for requirement documentation, what are the activities he has to do? He'll start planning. When should I do interviews? Which model should I commence with? Should I go for questionnaires or should I go for some sort of a, what do you call, checklist? No? So unless you break it down into work packages, it becomes impossible for team members to plan, right? Then milestone, what are milestones? Milestones are significant events in the life of a project. Different people could have different milestones. For a business analyst, requirement sign-off could be a milestone. Okay, for an operational stakeholder, rollout of completed application could be a milestone. For a test manager, rollout of the code into the test server could be a milestone, isn't it? For a portfolio manager who's always focused on maximizing ROI, Q1, Q2, Q3, those could be milestones. So milestones are not activities. So when you define milestone, I mean, if you attach milestone to an activity or to a work package, it would end on that day. So it is some sort of a schedule and sort of a constraint, right? It is some sort of a constraint. Then baseline, like I told you, a project will always be measured against 3 baselines. You call them performance measurement baseline. I'm extremely sorry, I did not notice. So a project will always be assessed against 3 baselines. Okay, like I told you, you have on this side you have cost baseline, this side you have schedule baseline, and this S curve denotes scope. Okay, so let's say you have to deliver 100 work packages, taking you $1 million in 6 months period. Okay, so on this side you have cost, on the other side you have schedule, and this represents scope. So project is always measured against 3 baselines. So let's say you meet a stakeholder in a lobby. Okay, he doesn't have too much time to spend you. He's asking you a few quick questions. The first question he asks you is, John, how's the project going? So you say, well, I've delivered on time. He's happy. You're talking about your scheduled performance. Well, does he stop there? The next question he would ask you is, what about the budget, John? You'll say, well, I was given $1 million. I just went up by a few $1,000s. Again, he's very happy. That's nothing, right? Then he's a very polished guy. He doesn't stop there. The next question he asks you is not very directly. He says, any outstanding issues? Is your issue log closed? Okay, he wants to know if you've delivered everything. If there are any outstanding issues, well, he knows stakeholders are not satisfied. There are long outstanding issues. That could be a big risk. We say, well, there were a few issues. We took them during post-product verification. They are also closed. So he's extremely happy. In other words, he has evaluated John based on 3 performance measurement baselines: time, cost, and scope, isn't it? So these baselines are retained for the purpose of comparison. Okay, let's say this is one baseline. Some permissible variances from the baselines are expected because these baselines are based on estimates. Estimates are based on assumptions. If assumptions can go wrong, relating to cost, relating to duration, relating to sequencing, relating to risks, whatever it is, if assumptions can go wrong, the estimates can also go wrong. If the estimates can go wrong, the plans can go wrong, the schedules can go wrong. So you can normally expect some variances from the baselines, but beyond the level, you need to take action. Okay, you have to explain why a particular major change happened. Do you have to re-baseline and so on? Okay, so baselines are those that are retained for comparison. For example, when you come with the schedule initially, the schedule remains as a schedule baseline, and the actual schedule is monitored against this baseline. So initially, it's only one thread. Schedule baseline is the same as schedule. If you look into Microsoft project tool, okay, you'll find the top window would be for baseline. We'll have common time frames. This is baseline, and this will be schedule, isn't it? So you can compare your schedule with the baseline. So baseline is what you arrived at initially, but that is retained for the purpose of comparison. Likewise, you have for cost, you have for scope, and so on. Fine. Then what is Gantt chart? Gantt chart is something that is discovered some almost 100 years back. I think it was in 2012. There was a gentleman called Gantt, who came up with this Gantt chart. So in Gantt chart, you indicate activities by this bars, and they're connected to each other, and they have time frames, isn't it? Right? So these are called as Gantt charts. Gantt charts are nothing but schedules. Fine. Then CCB. CCB refers to change control board. See, every organization would be having a change control board, isn't it? So what do they do? When you come up with initial plans, documents, you go to them and get them version controlled. They say, well, okay, we have approved this. You have approved this much of budget, this much of schedule. Okay, you have to deliver so much of scope. And these are all the technical performance measurements you must maintain. So they give you version 1. Any change that you make to that later on has to be approved by change control board. Okay, so change control board is a body of experts. So whenever you plan to make any major deployments, okay, to the production server, they are the ones who will be authorizing it. Okay, so change control board takes decisions based on changes originated by stakeholders. It could be anyone. It could be team members. It could be customers. It could be vendors. It could be suppliers. Anyone can ask for changes. So every change request has to be processed in an official manner as per the change management plan. So change management plan talks about how this change control board would be working. So we will have a process for change management, also configuration management. Okay, so those topics would be discussed in integrated change control in PMBOK, right? Stakeholder, we know anyone who is impacted by a project or who's impacting a project. Okay, right? People who are giving you requirements, people who are going to use your applications, people who are going to take your product out to the market, make money, the customers, okay, regulators, suppliers, all these people are stakeholders, no? And you cannot exclude negative stakeholders. Okay, these are very important stakeholders. We have to manage them more carefully. Okay, for instance, let's say we are building a bridge, and this bridge is going to benefit millions of people, but you have a small set of stakeholders whose lands we are dispossessing. So if you don't identify them, if you don't engage with them, if you don't communicate with them, if you don't look into what the requirements are, if you don't placate them, well, they can bring the whole project to a grinding halt, isn't it? So especially if the stakeholders are negatively impacted, we need to pay greater attention, right? Then issues, we know what issues are. A lot of times we have issues, no? Interface not available, data not available, okay, right? Production data not available, right? Then stakeholders not available to give you sign off or to accept deliveries. You're planning to deploy something. Suddenly somebody points out some major security vulnerability, okay, right? So a lot of issues we have. What are the issues? Issues that happen regardless of whether you anticipate it as a risk or not. Anything that happens is an issue. If you have a mitigant, that is, if it was a risk that you identified, and if that risk were to happen, well, that risk that has happened is also called an issue. But in which case you would have a mitigant. Since you identified a risk, you would have come with a mitigant. Okay, what is a mitigant? Anything done to reduce the impact of a risk. But what if we had not identified that as risk? It happened suddenly. Well, even that is an issue. So for an issue that happened unexpectedly, you find a workaround. Okay, so issue could be something that comes out of an identified risk or unidentified risk. Okay, whatever it is. If it is an identified risk, you will have a mitigant. Otherwise, you'll have a workaround, right? Then you have to find a fix. Okay, right? Let's say one of the issues one of the risks we anticipated was a team member might go on leave. It happened 2 times in the past 5 deployments. So what is the mitigant you would have? You would have somebody stand by, or you will build this 2 days extra time into the schedule, isn't it? Right? So, but what happens if if it happens unexpectedly? You have to find a fix then and there. Okay, then risk mitigation. So there are several strategies to mitigate risk. Okay, you have positive risk, negative risk. There are a lot of strategies like avoid, accept, enhance, a lot of strategies. We'll discuss them when we go to PMBOK, okay, at the relevant time. Then triple constraints, the same thing is repeated again. Okay, the baselines, we have 3 baselines. These 3 baselines represent triple constraints: time, cost, and scope. RAG status, what is RAG? It is a stoplight chart, no? Okay, risks. Then, basically they're stoplight charts. They tell you, see, you have a lot of stakeholders who are very senior. Okay, well, they don't want to be bombarded with a lot of information. So they just want you to give them timely information. Okay, so it is like red, amber, green. If there is something that you cannot solve, only then you have to take recourse to them. If not, all you need to do is provide them break status, right? So you must be having a lot of dashboards, in your projects, fine? Yeah. Then there are 10, yeah. See, PMBOK talks about 49 processes. Okay, see, it is like this. You have 49 processes described in PMBOK. Now, these 49 processes are performed at varying stages of project. For instance, when you launch a project, you develop project charter, no? So develop project charter is discussed under initiating process group. Then once you develop a project charter, based on that, the project manager starts planning. So he plans for a lot of areas: integration management, scope management, schedule management, cost management, risk management, procurement management, communications management. So he plans for a lot of areas, So all the plans that he come up with, they are discussed under planning process groups. Okay. Then once you have a plan, you'll be executing them. That is, we'll be applying the organizational resources and creating deliverables, isn't it? So whatever you perform, like testing, okay, delivering prototypes, getting requirement document sign off, all these things, they're part of execution. Then you must know, when you execute, you come with the results. Results includes deliverables and data relating to results. For deliverables, for example, how much time were supposed to take? You were supposed to take 3 months. You took 4 months. You get negative schedule variance. So like this, you get variance for different project objectives. So in monitor and control, what they do is you gather information from different knowledge areas, you combine them, and you generate work performance reports. These are reports that tell stakeholders as to what's happening in the project. Are we ahead of schedule, behind schedule? Are we within budget? Are we overspending? Whatever information. How are you managing risk? How are the vendors doing in relation to procurements? So basically, you gather information from different knowledge areas and you generate results in monitor and control project work. Then you close the phase of a project or the project as a whole. So these are 5 process groups: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. Now, different areas, knowledge areas have different plans. For example, integration management comes with project management plan. Then scope management plan, scope knowledge area comes with scope management plan. Cost management plan, knowledge area comes with cost management plan. Okay, so the process is identified either with, both with the phase and with the knowledge area. Okay, so this is called as initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing process groups. Fine. Okay, we'll be discussing this when we actually go there. Fine. This is just some sort of an overview. Okay. Yeah. So these are the 10 different knowledge areas. Okay. The same thing is described in the next slide. These are all the different knowledge areas. No. So you first identify stakeholders. No, first thing is you come with a charter. Based on the charter, you develop a plan, then you execute it. Then you compare the results and see if you're in conformity or not. If not, if you're not conforming, you generate change request and change control. Then you close the project, right? Then in scope, you collect requirements, define scope, create WBS, then establish process for accepting scope by the customer. You call that validate scope. Then you manage changes to the scope, right? Likewise, schedule. Once you know what the work packages are, you define them into activities, then you sequence them, then you come with resource requirements, then you come with duration estimates, then you develop a schedule. So schedule tells you when different activities are going to start and end. Then once you know what the activities are, you'll also be determining what are the resource requirements, no? What steel, what cement, how much steel, how much cement, how many people, how many business analysts, how many architects. So all these have got resource cost, isn't it? So you'll be estimating cost, then rolling them into one budget and controlling costs. Then you'll also be planning for quality. What is quality? Quality is conformance requirements. You have different requirements: regulatory requirements, stakeholders requirements, benchmark requirements, industry requirements. Okay, so you come with a plan for quality and you demonstrate compliance with quality through quality control measurements. Okay, so there are 3 processes in quality. Resource, how to acquire resources, how to develop them, how to manage them. Okay, right? Then you have dozens of stakeholders in an organization, in a project, internal, external. Okay, for example, you're a project manager all the time, smiling, never for a moment losing your cool. Okay, you talk to them, right? And you have to listen to them. Maybe you have to listen more often. Maybe that's why you have 2 years. People say no, you have only one mouth but 2 years. That is, communication is about establishing feedback and actively listening. So there are a lot of stakeholders. You have people at the very top level who are managing 5 to 10 projects at the same time. You cannot give them a lot of information, right? So their complaint is you are flooding them with information. Then you have people in the middle management. They say, well, they are people like change control board, program managers. They feel they are not informed enough, or we're informed too much. Okay, we are not structured, right, for the information requirements. Then you have team members. You give them information by the minute, yet they are not satisfied. They want even more and more. Then you have regulators, you have vendors. You need to tell vendors, you have to communicate vendors through the statement of work. You have to monitor contract performance, you have to assess the quality, you have to generate reports, you have to have meetings with vendors. So there is a wholly a new set of communication requirements. So you cannot have one size fits all approach. Depending on who you're talking to, you have to decide how often, what technology should I use. Okay, frequency, depth of information, breadth of information, everything has to be decided. So communication knowledge area helps you do that. Then procurement, there are situations when you have to outsource some work packages. Okay, either you may not have core competence to do it yourself, or the contract that you got might be too big, you cannot handle it, you want to share it with somebody, or it's too small, you don't want to permanently onboard somebody to your workforce just for the sake of a small contract. So such contracts also you can outsource. Okay, so or certain times you may not wish to outsource. For example, let's say you own an application that contains source code. Can you outsource it? No, you need to have greater control over production process. You cannot do that, isn't it? So you decide whether you have to outsource or not. If you decide you have to outsource, you come with a statement of work. Okay, statement of work is some sort of a narrative description of everything that you have to do in the project. Then you talk to the procurement manager. Procurement manager will decide the right type of contract to be linked to that statement of work. Okay, then you send them RFPs, invite them for negotiations, conduct procurements, then conclude agreements. Okay, and start monitoring contract performance in control procurements, right? Then risk management is about, what is risk? Any uncertainty that could impact project objectives positively or negatively. It should impact project objectives. If there is a crash, plane crash in Alaska, it is not a risk for us unless it is impacting a project objective. Okay, right? So what is project objective? Scope is a timely delivery, delivering 100% of what we promise, keeping to the budget. Okay, maintaining minimum quality, keeping the resources, team resource in a good morale, when keeping vendors informed accurately at what their expectations are, what our expectations are. Okay, so basically you have any risk happening if we don't these processes properly. So we have to identify all the risk. Risk could come from different sources, right? Hundreds of sources. How do you identify risk, right? Then how do you decide whether the risk is low risk, medium risk, high risk? Okay, then if your organization permits, how to put numbers to that. Okay, there are some lot of techniques we'll be discussing, like Monte Carlo, sensitivity. Okay, so how do you put numbers to that? Then what are the different responses you can plan for positive risk, negative risk, and how to monitor risk performance. Then this is about stakeholders identification. You have to identify stakeholders, talk to them. That is, you conduct profile analysis meetings with them, find out from them which are the areas where they can help you, which are the areas where they're strong. Okay, so, and find out what their attitudes are towards a project, how to win them over in case they are a bit reticent. Then how to engage them actively in their projects, how to make a project a success, how to meet their expectations, how to solve their problems. Okay, all that is in stakeholder management. So these are the 10 different knowledge areas we'll be discussing in PMBOK. Fine. And you'll have a bit of agile in almost all of these. Okay. Yeah. So PMP exams are held throughout the year. Okay. So they are held in a company called PSN View holds exam. Okay. So they're available all over India, all over the world. You have these centers, right? So basically, the fee for this, you have computer-based and paper-based. Forget about paper-based; it's absolute. Nobody really takes exams in paper-based, right? So computer-based for members and non-members. So my suggestion is you take exam as a member, because whatever you save as a membership fee, you'll be spending on extra fees for non-members. Okay, so membership fee is 150. You become member, right? Then you have local chapters. If you want, you can member for local chapter. If you find that they're doing some volunteering, if they'll give you volunteering opportunities, you can. Okay. So maximum 3 attempts allowed in a year. Well, we are all going to pass in the very first attempt. Okay, so don't worry. Now, once you complete your PMP, that certification is valid for 3 years, which means you don't have to really take the exam again. All you can do is you can watch some webinars from PMI, and every webinar that you watch of 60 minutes will automatically clock 1 PDU against your profile. So it's very, very easy. Okay, right? Then certification renewal is 60 and annual membership is 65. So that is every year you have to pay $65 as annual membership. And at the end of every third year when you renew, you have to pay a renewal membership. So these are the only 2 costs. But initially when you take the exam, this cost you have to incur $405, right? I'll tell you something about this exam itself. So this exam runs for 4 hours. You have 200 multiple choice questions. Out of them, 25 are pre-test questions, which means they'll not be evaluated. But we don't know what these pre-test questions are, so we'll have no means of knowing. For us, all the 200 questions carry equal marks. Okay, right? Then there are no negative marks. That is, if you choose a wrong answer, it will not be held against you. So the bottom line is don't miss any answer, right? Any question, you answer all of them. These questions are extremely situational. They are developed by PMI volunteers in exam development workshops. Fine. They bring up their practical situations and they try to find solutions. So that's how they come up with a question bank. Fine. So within 2 months, you'll get a certificate. Scores are confidential. Nobody knows what are the pass marks. Okay. So that is one big disadvantage, right? So your assessment is based on a scale of 1 to 4, right? That's all. That's all you need to about exam. But it's an extremely situational paper. Fine. Okay then. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.